Hello, kia ora, g'day. I'm Philip Duncan from Weather Watch TV on YouTube with your Australia-only weather forecast right through until Sunday, recorded on Monday the 17th of November. Let's have a look at the satellite and rain radar today, and the lightning as well. We've got this frontal cloud clearing away from Queensland, so we've seen some overnight rain, showers and thunderstorms. There are still a few showers around this morning, but a lot of that is now clearing out to the east. Further southwards, it's a similar story around southern parts of New South Wales, where that cold front swept through overnight and early this morning, and the colder airflow behind it for Tasmania especially, but also Victoria and South Australia. And then you jump over to Western Australia, the top half sees some thunderstorms, the southern half is looking pretty dry. And look at the top end and around Katherine, a lot of low pressure and thunderstorms up there. And so let's take a closer look at that. Widespread thunderstorms pretty much right over the top of Darwin this morning, and some widespread wet weather spinning around low pressure, which is pretty messy at the moment. There is this sort of large area of low pressure. So we are identifying the chance of a tropical cyclone to form within the next probably 5 or 6 days. But it's not locked in because the different computer modeling we look at to build up our confidence is still a little bit messy, as we're going to show you soon. But you can see a bit of a change happening already with the low pressure zone already up in that area. This is it here. So low pressure still continues around the top of Australia. High pressure is still mostly offshore, although this one to the southwest of Western Australia is spreading a ridge into the southern half. That's why the winds are lighter, the skies are clearer, it's drier at the moment there. And it's also the reason why we're getting that southerly flow across South Australia and pushing into Victoria, pushing over Tassie, although by this evening more of a westerly flow for you. And also the temperatures down in parts of New South Wales, even into parts of Queensland and the Northern Territory, as that southerly flow goes northwards and clears away a lot of the humidity and reduces back the heat. So here is the setup on Tuesday. High pressure to the east of New South Wales, pretty much over the top of Lord Howe Island. And the next high is southwest of Albany, Western Australia, a long way southwest. So that means the low pressure zone over Western Australia, which is fairly large and lazy, can sink further southwards. And that's where we see a risk of showers, thunderstorms, even some severe thunderstorm risk going into the next couple of days there. The low pressure zone north of Darwin remains spinning around just to the north there. Got a few more thunderstorms over the far north of Queensland, but really that red tropical boundary, that tropical air mass being pushed further northwards. So the temperatures aren't as high, not as humid in the southern half of Queensland. Still obviously hot for some of you inland, but not as humid as it's been. And a similar story right across New South Wales and the ACT. But the further southwards you go, still caught up in that stormy Southern Ocean weather. The polar boundary comes right back into the southern part of Tasmania on Tuesday afternoon. Windy westerlies blowing back through, including Bass Strait, coastal parts of Victoria and some coastal parts of South Australia as well, with just a few showers, mostly dry for you, but a bit cloudy with a couple of showers around. By Wednesday, the polar boundary back up over Hobart and moving into other main centres of Tassie as the next surge of southerlies comes in. You can blame the high south of Western Australia because the placement of that high so far south, scooping up that airflow that's down near Antarctica and now around the Southern Ocean, and pulls it right on up. So you'll feel that on the coastal parts of South Australia, east of Adelaide that is, east of Kangaroo Island, and around some coastal parts of Victoria, mostly west of Melbourne, sort of in that zone. So there will be some showers and those colder southerly winds move further northwards as we go in towards Wednesday night. But it's pretty quiet around New South Wales, not talking about you much at the moment, not talking much about Queensland or the Northern Territory on Wednesday, with that low still drifting around further to the north. And you see what I mean with the southern placement of the high. The showers and the low here around Western Australia sinks further southwards. That creates a windy easterly squash zone for Perth, for Bunbury, for other areas there in the very south of Western Australia. Stays that way on Thursday still. Windy weather, easterly winds blowing through. There'll be nor'easters for some of you, perhaps a little more east to southeast for others. Low pressure right in central parts of Western Australia. So there could be some thunderstorms, maybe severe thunderstorms, coming up here and there over Wednesday and Thursday as that low in Western Australia sinks southwards. And you've also got a lot of low pressure around the Northern Territory, around Queensland. And then as you drop down further towards Victoria, that squash zone between the lower tropical pressure and the high pressure coming in over the Great Australian Bight again, squeezes the winds. So strong nor'easters, especially around the mountains and the ranges, especially on the western side, the left-hand side of those hills and ranges, as those winds come over and blow right across the southern portion of Australia on Thursday. But let's go to Friday, because that's where things get a little more interesting up here in the tropics. Now, low pressure systems like this one, as you can see, it's kind of weak all week long. It's not looking like a major event, but it's like a spinning top that you can't quite spin, or a coin. So if you spin a coin on a table, sometimes you flick it and it just goes flat, doesn't work. Takes a couple of goes and then you finally get it to spin. It's a similar kind of thing up here in the tropical areas. This low is spinning. It's not necessarily getting that right spin to it, but that's just one computer model. That's just the American modeling that we're looking at here. In a second, I'll show you the difference between the American and the European. But before that, see that squash zone of nor'easters and northerlies and easterlies all along the southern parts of Australia, but also into New South Wales here on Friday as well. That is courtesy of the high building and ballooning out around Tassie. You've got lighter winds and a lift in temperatures for you, Tasmania. There is some good news. So the winds are lighter there, but that air pressure lifting up in the southeast and the low pressure coming into the northern parts of New South Wales makes for downpours, thunderstorms, and a squeeze of those winds. So there could be windy weather around on Friday. But let's now take a look at the tropics. So we've got Darwin here over on the left-hand side of the screen. The black circle that you animation that you see, that is the American modeling. Those are the maps we've been showing you all the way along in today's forecast and most days. So that doesn't look like a tropical cyclone. That looks like a weak, but still an area of low pressure, a tropical depression to keep an eye on. This one over here with the white shading, that's the European modeling, and that shows a tropical cyclone powering up as we go into the end of the week, just northwest of Darwin. So there is still quite a bit of range between these two computer models and the center that they see. At some point in the next couple of days, they're going to align, more than likely, and then we'll get some sort of picture. But basically, there is I would say, a moderate risk of a tropical cyclone forming this week, just north of Australia. But how powerful it gets, that's what we're still trying to lock in, and also the precise tracking of that low. So now we jump back to the American modeling. That doesn't show the storm that we just showed you just west of Darwin. But this one does show now what looks like a tropical cyclone also forming on Saturday, just north or northeast of Darwin. So both computer models are getting more confident that a cyclone's forming, but they're definitely not confident on how powerful and precisely the timing and the placement of it as we go into the later part of the week. For everybody else, the main feature going on from sort of Thursday into the weekend is this sort of windy belt of weather snaking around the southern half of Australia. Low pressure covers more than half of Australia here, sinking down into southern areas. But you've got this big high pressure zone around Tassie and the southern part of the Tasman Sea. So windy with showers and thunderstorms around South Australia and maybe even into the southwest corner of Western Australia as well. And our final map on Sunday, once more the low up here, messy. American modeling, not totally sure what's going on. European modeling is more certain. They're like good sports teams. They, you might have one that you think's always accurate, and then on the big moment, it's not. It lets you down. So we have to look at more than one computer model to kind of work out what is going on. So we'll talk about that more in the days ahead. But what you see here on Sunday, a messy kind of system, severe thunderstorm potential in the northeastern corner of New South Wales, windy and warmer winds coming down, the red tropical boundary sinking right down over a large portion of South Australia and even to the southeast coast of Western Australia. Just move a slight distance westwards over towards Albany and over towards the southern coastline. That is a cold southerly coming through, high pressure way off over in the Indian Ocean, polar boundary coming back in. So you'll feel the temperature really down in the southwest, but in the southeast of Western Australia, it could be very hot and very humid. So a few things moving around here, a messy spring-like weather pattern and some signs of the tropical cyclone season now turning up on our front doorstep. Back doorstep, front doorstep. I would say that's the front doorstep. I'm not really sure. Anyway, that is all from me for today. Thanks for joining me. Hope you have a great week ahead. I'll see you again tomorrow, Tuesday, with our next Australia Only update.